Hello, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Coalition for Freedom podcast. I'm your host, Jason Wisniewski, and we've got some topics for you today, starting with Joe Biden's Neanderthal comments regarding Governor Abbot in Texas lifting the mask mandate for his state, as well as going to 100% reopening. I believe Mississippi did the same as well. So Biden made those comments, which his press secretary tried desperately to clarify, but really to no avail, as Biden's come under fire for the comments since. We'll also get into Joy Reid of MSNBC with some very interesting backlash to the backlash of Mr. Potato Head getting canceled. So we'll get into that as well. But let's start with Biden on the Neanderthal comments, because I thought those were really interesting. Basically, Biden with saying Neanderthal is trying to come across to say that the idea that the governor thinks that he can repeal the mask mandate is somehow backwards or primitive thinking. Is Joe Biden aware that there's a CDC, Centers for Disease Control study, that shows that nearly 85% of people reported with COVID have reported either always wearing a mask, that's 70.6%, and then the other 14.4% often wearing a mask. So 70.6 plus 14.4, that's 85% of people either always wore a mask or often wore a mask. Only 3.9% report never wearing a mask. So what that tells you basically, and doctors agree, if you're not wearing the N95 medical grade mask, it's really not doing much for you. I mean, even Dr. Fauci, the great Dr. Fauci that the left loves to tout, said the same thing. It's basically wearing a cloth mask or one of those disposable ones. It's just, it's making people feel psychologically comfortable, but from a medical grade, these are microscopic particles. It's not protecting you from the virus, as evidenced by these statistics. So the Neanderthal comments are just way out of line for Biden. Perhaps he's the Neanderthal with thinking that you can stop a virus and microscopic particles with a below-grade mask that you can buy at the Dollar Tree. I don't know what else to say. Biden recently, his administration is letting COVID-positive patients that are coming across the border. Basically, these are illegal immigrants. They say the magic words, asylum, so they are granted entry into the United States with a hearing that may come in 3 or 4 years that they may or may not ever attend. And these people were given a voluntary rapid test when they were detained, and they tested positive for the coronavirus. There's 108 of them in Brownsville, Texas. So they were released, given a $1,100 travel stipend to go wherever they want. They'll actually be coming up to my home state here in New Jersey. According to this article, after interviews with the people that tested positive and were allowed to come in. So Biden is actually importing the virus from across the border. So, does he really have any room to talk here on this issue? I don't think so. And our other topic here for the day is Joy Reid, who is basically, as I mentioned before, is the backlash to the backlash of Mr. Potato Head getting canceled. Hasbro got a little bit of the woke virus, and they were planning on just calling him Potato Head because they didn't want to imply his gender. Unbelievable times that we're living in here. But so Joy Reid did not like the backlash to Hasbro on that, apparently. So she views this as a Republican backlash, or conservative backlash, and then she just went on a tirade about Republicans and saying this just really came out of nowhere. This was a really bizarre comment that these are the same Republicans that would trade tax cuts for being able to say the N-word like the old days. What is this crackpot talking about? Number one, the Republican Party was formed to abolish slavery. The Republican Party is the party that passed civil rights legislation in Congress and the Senate when the segregationist Democrats didn't want to. LBJ would have never been able to get that legislation signed without Republican support. So apparently Joy Reid needs a history lesson. And really, Republicans would trade tax cuts for being able to say the N-word? Honey, I ain't trading tax cuts for being able to say any word. To say a word? And I guess you haven't noticed, but all the 15 seats that the Republicans picked up in the House, they were either minorities, several of which are black, women, and veterans. So it really just doesn't make any sense that she would make comments like that, but people like Joy Reid, who work for networks like MSNBC, they can't articulate their ideas. They don't want to present their vision and platform to the people because when you get down to it, that's a really hard sell. So they create distractions like this to try to accuse people of some false racism that doesn't exist, and just to deflect from the absolutely awful policies that we're seeing put forth by the Biden administration. I mean, I can go on here with these executive orders and canceling the Keystone Pipeline, which is why your gas prices are jumping through the roof right now. Just unbelievable devastation there. The job loss that was created by that horrible decision with a lot of these union workers lost their job that were working on the pipeline with the stroke of a pen. So Joy Reid carries water obviously for this administration, has to create silly absurd distractions like this, and I hope people see through this garbage because it's just absolute nonsense. Well, thank you for tuning in for this edition of Coalition for Freedom. We're going to be doing these little bits here, just talking about the stories from the day here and there, and I thank you again for tuning in. See you next time.